everybody, thank you for joining us today. My name is Nikita and I'm the product manager at Tax 990. I've been working with Tax 990 for just over 2 years, and it's been so enjoyable to help teach the nonprofit community about the importance of filing their 990 series return and to be able to help them through that process. Today we're going to review the importance of filing your annual returns and take a look at some specific filing requirements and guidelines. If you have any questions during the presentation, please add them to the chat and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. We do want to mention we are not tax advisors and we will not be providing specific tax advice. We will purely be discussing IRS e-filing requirements and the process of e-filing. For specific tax questions, please contact a tax advisor or a CPA. This presentation will be recorded and available at tax990.com. During today's webinar, we'll be discussing IRS filing requirements, e-filing deadlines, e-filing timeframes, reporting information, and filing with Tax 990. The IRS mandated e-filing for the 990 series returns on July 1st of 2019. This means you're no longer able to paper file a return and you have to use an authorized e-file provider. If the organization paper files a return, the IRS will send it back and request the form be e-filed, and this will cause the return to be submitted late and could risk accruing penalties. The IRS is moving towards e-filing for most forms, whether tax-exempt or not. E-filing reduces the amount of filing errors, makes filing and IRS processing more efficient, and ensures that IRS guidelines are met. The form you file on an annual basis depends on your organization's financial activity during the tax year and your exempt status. If your financial situation changes, your form type may also change from one year to the next. An organization is required to file a 990 series return to provide the IRS and the public with information about the organization's programs, activities, relationships, transactions, and governance, as well as information on revenue, expenses, and assets. Basically, it's used to ensure the organization is following its mission, exempt purpose, and using funds appropriately. An organization is required to file a 990 series return on an annual basis to maintain its tax-exempt status. Failure to file could result in penalties by the IRS or a revocation of the exempt status. If an organization fails to file for 3 consecutive years, the IRS will automatically revoke the organization's exempt status. If an organization files late, they'll risk penalties of $20 per day or $105 a day for larger organizations. The penalty amount could reach a maximum of $10,500 or 5% of the organization's annual gross receipts. The IRS will typically contact the organization with a mailed letter to inform them of penalties accrued and fees due. You'll need to follow the steps in the IRS letter to resolve these penalties. Now that we've reviewed the annual filing requirement, let's take a look at the filing deadlines. As mentioned, an organization is required to file a return on an annual basis. The deadline to file depends on the organization's tax period. Not all organizations follow the same tax period. An organization's tax year can be any 12-month time frame. The organization's deadline to file a return is the 15th day of the 5th month following the end of the organization's tax year. The most common tax periods are either January through December or July through June. So for example, if the organization has a January through December tax year, that means their tax year begins on January 1st and ends on December 31st every year. The deadline for this tax period would be May 15th because the fifth month after the tax period ends on December 31st would be May, and the deadline is the 15th of the month. However, if the deadline is the 15th and it falls on a weekend or federal holiday, the deadline is moved to the next business day. The IRS will determine the organization's tax year, and the information will be indicated on the IRS determination letter that the organization received upon the evolution of exempt status. Your organization will follow this tax year throughout the life of the organization, and the deadline will remain the same each year. If you're unsure of your organization's tax year, you should reference the determination letter or contact the IRS before filing a return. Using an incorrect tax period could result in a rejected return or penalties if you miss the actual deadline because you assume the deadline is on a different month. An exempt organization uses the Form 8868 to request an automatic 6-month extension of time to file its return. So if you're not able to meet your deadline, then you can file an 8868 extension to obtain a 6-month deadline extension. The 8868 is applicable towards the 990, the 990EZ, the 990PF, and the 990T. But as mentioned, you cannot apply for an extension on a 990N form. You can only file one extension form per tax year. If you filed an extension on your original deadline and your extension deadline has approached, you have to file your 990 form. You cannot file another extension. The 8868 extension is due on or before your original 990 series deadline. That's important to remember. If you miss your filing deadline, you cannot file an extension. You have to file the actual 990 series form. The 8868 extension form will be available for e-filing as of March 17th. Organizations that operate on a fiscal tax year need to be careful when choosing the correct tax year to file. When paper filing was an approved process, this was not such an issue because the information could just be written into the field. Now with the e-file mandate, the IRS will not accept a tax year return that's not accurately reported on the correct tax year form. The basic piece to remember is you choose the tax year form that the tax year begins in. If you're filing for a tax year that begins in 2021 and ends in 2022, you would choose to complete a 2021 tax year form. When you're filing for a tax year that begins in 2023 and ends in 2024, you'll complete a 2023 tax year form. Most e-file providers will not provide the option to complete a return on any form other than the appropriate tax year. For example, most e-file providers will not allow you to complete a 2021 through 2022 tax year form on any form other than a 2021 tax year. Often an organization will indicate on their return that it is an initial return because it's the first one filed for that tax year. We just want to help clarify this process. The initial or final return will only be used once throughout the life of the organization. The initial return means it's the very first form the organization has ever filed, and this would be selected if the organization is brand new and filing their first form. The final return would be selected if the organization is terminating and will not be conducting business past the tax year end date reported on the return. If it's not your initial or final return, you do not need to make a selection for either. An organization filing a 990, 990EZ, or 990PF is asked to report program service activities and accomplishments and their program service revenue. This information is going to be taken into consideration when applying for grants, approaching donors, and increasing your fundraising. The purpose of providing this information is to explain to others how you're operating your organization and utilizing funding to adhere to the mission. It's important to paint a picture of the activities hosted to encourage financial gain. The information organizations provide in this section also helps the IRS to determine if their activities are appropriate for their exempt status, and it allows conveying to the public what was accomplished throughout the year. Ultimately, the information reported in this section can have a big impact on your organization, so you must be completing it properly. It's important to provide significant, thorough, and accurate information. Not only will the IRS review the return to confirm the accuracy and ensure you're maintaining your reason for exemption, but donors and contributors will review the information to confirm donations are being used towards exempt status purpose, and grant applications will review the use of your funds and the narrative to ensure the grants will be used to their highest value. If you do not provide information accordingly, it may have a future impact on your fundraising objectives or the organization's success. Since the IRS has mandated e-filing, your organization must use an e-file provider to complete and transmit your return. The IRS mandates that all 990 forms be filed electronically. Choosing an IRS authorized provider is crucial. However, you should also keep in mind that the features and tools they offer are also important to making the right choice for your organization. Just like choosing a technology-driven accounting software, choosing an e-file provider that meets your needs will streamline reporting. Tax 990 is an IRS authorized e-file provider with over a decade of experience in e-filing tax forms. Collectively, Tax 990 and its sister products offer the option to e-file over 70 different tax forms, including business tax forms such as the 1099 and W-2, the 941 forms, and ACA forms such as the 1094 and 1095. For information on our other solutions, please reach out to our team. Tax 990 is SOC 2 certified application. We do go through a vigorous annual audit and testing to ensure that your data is secure. Once you complete a return, you can share it with members of your organization for approval. The return can be shared electronically, meaning you send the organization member an email to access the document online and they can review it, comment on it, and approve it. Or you can share manually, meaning you would print a copy to share with the organization members. The individuals that you share the return with cannot make edits directly on the form. They can provide comments and suggestions on changes that you'll receive as a message in your Tax 990 account. And Tax 990 provides the option to file a return for the current and 2 prior years, so if you're behind on your filing, you can catch up before your exempt status is revoked. Now, these are just a few of our features that we are highlighting during this webinar. With each passing webinar, we will highlight a couple of our other features, but you can also reach out to our support team at any time for any questions that you have regarding the process of filing with Tax 990. Filing with Tax 990 is a simple 6-step process. You start by adding your organization to the account, and then you choose the form that you need to file and add the necessary information. You'll review the return using our internal audit to confirm that the information provided meets IRS Form instructions. You'll have the option to share the return with other organization members. And the final step is to transmit your return to the IRS. Tax 990 offers customer support, and we are dedicated. We keep your support personalized to your account and the issues or questions you are encountering, and we are available. You can reach us via chat, email, or phone call Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You won't need to be on hold for several hours or be put on a callback list. When you need assistance with your return, you can just give us a call or reach out using one of our other support options, and we will be able to help you along the way. It is important to note that as the May 15th deadline approaches, our wait times may be a little bit longer, but you can get started on your return now so you can have all access and time to complete the return. We do have an extensive knowledge base of helpful tips, tricks, frequently asked questions, and guides. We also have our YouTube channel with a lot of how-to videos for basic features and functions within the application. And we have an extensive blog page that goes over so many different topics related to filing for each form, what things mean, how to complete certain steps along the way. As you are made aware in the emails that you receive, this is a series of webinars that we're going to be doing every Thursday through the May 15th deadline at 2 p.m. You can sign up for all of them or just what would apply to your organization. Next week, we'll be looking further in depth at the features that Tax 990 offers and how to use those features. So you can go ahead and join those at any time at tax990.com/webinars. Okay, and we'll do a quick Q&A before we finish up here. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we will answer them live in the next couple of minutes. I'll give it just a minute to allow you time to put your questions in chat. Okay, so our first question from Mark. Mark is wondering if they file the form by the May 15th deadline and it is rejected, is it considered late when you resend the form? You do have a grace period on a rejected return, so if you file by the deadline, the IRS will recognize it as being filed on time. If it's rejected, you have a 5-day grace period to resolve and retransmit that return to maintain that on-time status. Okay, Kayla is wondering if there's a way to see IRS form instructions or if they have to visit the IRS to download them. Tax 990 does provide the IRS form instructions inside the application for each of our forms, so you can quickly reference those if necessary. Okay, Tiffany's wondering if you need an excuse to file a 6-month extension. We get that question a lot, actually, and no, you're not required to provide an excuse or reason for extension request when you file the 8868. As long as you file the 8868 form before your original deadline, there shouldn't be any issues with that filing, and you do not have to provide a reason for extension. Okay, James is wondering if they can do, let's see, a prior year return that has already been filed. If you filed a prior year return, whether it be by paper or with another provider, if it was accepted, we would not advise filing again with Tax 990 for that same tax year. As I mentioned, if it was paper filed, then it was likely rejected because the IRS doesn't accept paper filing, so you can go and file that with Tax 990. However, if you filed with an alternate provider and you're not sure of the status, we would suggest contacting the IRS prior to filing with Tax 990. I believe I mentioned this earlier, but we do support the current and 2 prior years. So right now we offer the option to file for tax years 2021, 2022, and 2023. Okay, Linda's wondering if they start the return, do they have to finish it right then, or can they stop and start several times? This is a feature we'll be talking about next week in our webinar, but you do have the option to come and go as you please. The form will save as you enter the information, so next time when you log in, you'll pick up right where you left off. Let's see. We'll just do a couple more here before we finish up. We have, let's see, Michael's wondering if there is a deadline to file an amended return. The IRS does not have a specific deadline to file an amended return. They just really request that as soon as you notice there's an error on your originally filed return, to correct it as soon as possible using an amended form. Tax 990 does provide the option to complete an amended return for our supported tax years, whether or not the original form was filed with Tax 990. So if you filed the original form elsewhere, you can file an amendment with us as long as it's using one of our supported tax years. Again, yes, this webinar will be available as a recording on our website at tax990.com/webinars. And we'll do one more. Let's see. Amber's wondering, how do you know what your fiscal tax year is? So if you're not sure what your fiscal tax year is, you'll want to take a look at your organization's IRS determination letter, which will clearly indicate your tax year end date. And from the end date, you can determine the 12-month prior beginning date. If you don't have your determination letter anymore, you can visit the IRS website and look up your EIN, and you may be able to find it in their database, or you can call the IRS directly for confirmation on your tax year. Okay, well, thank you guys for attending today. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that we see some of you back next week for our next webinar to review features within Tax 990 and take a look at how some of those work. We're excited to be doing this little boot camp series with you guys leading up to the May 15th deadline. All of our webinars over the next several weeks will be short, little 20-minute topic-focused webinars and trainings on specific things. So take a look at those different webinars on our website and register for the ones that are of interest to you. And as mentioned, please reach out to our team if you have any questions or you need any assistance in your filing process. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your afternoon.